The check fluttered to the floor between them like a wounded bird. For a long second, neither of them moved. Outside the cafe window, the bright afternoon sun poured over the city streets, illuminating the polished cars, crowded sidewalks, and glittering office towers. Inside, however, everything seemed frozen. The amount written on that check could have erased years of struggle. It could have paid every debt, repaired every problem, and changed an entire future. Yet the woman standing across from one of the richest men in the city looked down at it and quietly walked away. That single decision would change both of their lives forever. Before we begin this unforgettable story, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Hub if you believe kindness, second chances, and genuine love are worth fighting for. Your support helps us bring more heartwarming stories to people around the world. The city of Cresthaven was a place where success was measured in glass towers and luxury cars. Few people embodied that success more than Alaric Voss, the founder and CEO of a rapidly growing technology empire. At only 38 years old, he had become a symbol of ambition. Business magazines praised him. Investors admired him. Competitors feared him. But despite everything he owned, Alaric carried a loneliness that no amount of money could silence. His days were filled with meetings, acquisitions, and endless responsibilities. His penthouse overlooked the entire city, yet every evening it felt emptier than the night before. He had spent so many years chasing achievement that he barely remembered what genuine connection felt like. One sunny afternoon, while driving through an older district scheduled for redevelopment, his attention was caught by a small workshop squeezed between modern buildings. The sign above the door read, "Second Chance Workshop." Something about the place seemed strangely out of place amid the concrete and steel surrounding it. Curious, he stepped inside. The scent of freshly cut wood filled the air. Sunlight streamed through large windows, dancing across workbenches covered with tools and unfinished projects. Handmade chairs, tables, and shelves lined the walls. At the center of the workshop stood a woman helping a little girl sand the leg of a wooden stool. The woman looked exhausted. Her clothes carried traces of sawdust. Small shadows rested beneath her eyes. Yet there was a calm strength about her that immediately caught his attention. Her name was Mirelle Rowan. The little girl beside her was her daughter, Junie. Without realizing it, Alaric stood watching for several moments. Mirelle noticed him first. She greeted him politely and asked if he needed help. What followed was one of the most ordinary conversations Alaric had experienced in years. She didn't know who he was. She didn't recognize his face from magazines or business interviews. To her, he was simply another customer. Oddly enough, that felt refreshing. As the conversation continued, Alaric learned that the workshop served a unique purpose. Mirelle repaired furniture and taught woodworking skills to people trying to rebuild their lives after hardship. Former addicts, single parents, unemployed workers, and struggling young adults often found hope within those walls. The workshop itself barely survived financially. Most months were a battle. Yet despite the challenges, Mirelle refused to give up. Something about her determination lingered in Alaric's thoughts long after he left. Over the following weeks, he found excuses to return. Sometimes he ordered furniture. Sometimes he simply stopped by to observe the projects being completed. Gradually he learned more about Mirelle's life. Several years earlier, her husband had died unexpectedly, leaving her with debt, responsibilities, and a young daughter to raise alone. Many people expected her to sell the workshop. Others advised her to abandon the dream altogether. Instead, she worked longer hours. She sacrificed comfort. She fought for every customer. The workshop became more than a business. It became proof that hardship could be transformed into purpose. Alaric admired her resilience. The admiration slowly became something deeper. For the first time in years, he found himself looking forward to something other than work. Meanwhile, trouble was quietly approaching. A large development project planned to purchase several properties in the district, including the land occupied by Second Chance Workshop. The project promised massive profits. Ironically, one of the companies involved belonged to Alaric's own corporate group. When he discovered the details, he immediately understood the danger. If the acquisition moved forward, Mirelle could lose everything she had built. Determined to help, he arranged a private meeting. They met in a small cafe on a warm afternoon. Mirelle arrived carrying folders filled with financial records and property documents. She looked worried. For the first time since he had met her, genuine fear appeared in her eyes. The workshop's future hung by a thread. After listening carefully, Alaric made what seemed like the obvious decision. He offered to buy the property for her. He offered additional funds to expand the workshop. He even promised enough money to guarantee financial security for years. To him, it seemed like the perfect solution. But then something unexpected happened. Mirelle quietly shook her head. She thanked him for his generosity. Then she refused every dollar. Alaric stared at her in disbelief. Few people turn down opportunities like that. Yet her expression never changed. She explained that she didn't want to be rescued. She wanted a fair chance. There was a difference. Accepting charity from a wealthy CEO might solve immediate problems, but it would also undermine everything she had spent years building. Her workshop existed because people learned to stand again after falling. If she abandoned that principle herself, what message would remain? The word struck Alaric harder than he expected. For years he had solved problems with resources. Money fixed complications. Money created opportunities. Money opened doors. But sitting across from Mirelle, he encountered something money could not purchase. Dignity. That evening he returned to his penthouse feeling strangely unsettled. The city skyline stretched endlessly beyond the windows. Normally the view filled him with pride. This time it felt hollow. For days, he replayed their conversation. Eventually he realized something uncomfortable. He had spent much of his life believing help and control were the same thing. Whenever someone struggled, he intervened with solutions. Whenever a problem appeared, he used money to eliminate it. Yet Mirelle had shown him another possibility. People didn't always need saving. Sometimes they needed someone willing to stand beside them while they saved themselves. The realization began changing him. Rather than offering another check, Alaric started helping differently. He connected the workshop with local suppliers willing to provide discounted materials. He introduced Mirelle to community organizations seeking training programs. He encouraged businesses to purchase handcrafted furniture from Second Chance Workshop. None of these actions placed him at the center. The success remained hers. Slowly, the workshop began growing. More students enrolled. More orders arrived. More lives were transformed. Junie often sat near the workshop window after school, smiling as people carried completed furniture to waiting vehicles. For the first time in years, optimism replaced uncertainty. But success rarely arrives without resistance. The redevelopment project continued moving forward. Powerful investors wanted the district cleared quickly. Several influential executives pushed aggressively for acquisition approval. When Alaric opposed them, conflicts erupted within his own company. Board meetings became tense. Arguments intensified. Some directors accused him of allowing personal feelings to interfere with business decisions. Others questioned his leadership. For the first time in his career, Alaric found himself standing against the very system that had helped make him wealthy. The pressure grew heavier every week. Meanwhile, Mirelle remained unaware of many sacrifices he was making behind the scenes. She continued focusing on her workshop, her daughter, and the people who depended on her. Yet she gradually noticed subtle changes in him. The confident CEO seemed less concerned with winning and more concerned with understanding. The man who once tried solving problems with money now spent hours listening. He asked questions. He paid attention. He learned. And without either of them fully realizing it, something beautiful began to grow between them. Not because he rescued her. Not because she needed him. But because they were teaching each other how to become better versions of themselves. The greatest test of that growing bond, however, was still waiting just around the corner.